How do the Rams prevent a leadership void with the absence of Robert Woods and Andrew Whitworth? Cooper Kupp may be on to something.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. I am your host, Travis Rogers. I host the Rams pregame show, halftime show, and postgame show on their flagship station right here in Los Angeles, ESPN 710. All right, so here's what's going on. Cooper Kupp had some really interesting things to say about Robert Woods, posted a letter on Instagram that I want to get to in just a couple of seconds. I also want to talk about some of the rule changes that the USFL is throwing around, and one or two that I wouldn't hate to see come to the NFL because I think they'd help to benefit the Rams quite a bit if they did, in fact, put those rules in there along the way. And the Rams have lost 7 starting players. What does that mean? Who are the replacements and which are the easier ones to replace and which ones, of course, are the more difficult? That's all coming up later on this edition of Locked On Rams, but let's get right to it. You've heard me mention this a few times on the podcast, and that is, what are the Rams going to do now that arguably 2 of their 3 most important leaders have left the team or have retired from the NFL? Of course, I'm talking about the 3 leaders that I'm talking about. Aaron Donald on the defensive side, he's still going to be here, presumably, and that would be stunned if that weren't true. But on the offensive side of the ball, 2 separate guys have decided to retire or they were traded away from the team. I'm talking about Andrew Whitworth and we're talking about Robert Woods. If you listen to what the Rams players say, and more importantly, I mean, perhaps not more importantly, but equally as important, if you listen to what the coaching staff says, if you listen to people around the organization, and I'm talking about staffers, I'm also talking about people that cover this team on a regular basis. And I'm fortunate enough to get to talk to a lot of these people, and it's really interesting. When they talk about Andrew Whitworth and Robert Woods, football is not the first thing that comes up. It's what they bring to the organization. It's a level of professionalism. It's a commitment to doing things a certain way. And I'm not even talking about necessarily like the air quotes, the right way versus the wrong way. It's the professional way. I want to read to you what Cooper Kupp posted on Twitter about Robert Woods. It's a little long, but I think it merits reading the entire thing. And what Cooper Kupp wrote was, "There aren't any words that will do Robert Woods the justice he deserves for what he has meant to me over these last 5 years. The standard of what it means to be a pro about your craft. The standard for the sacrifice required to elevate the people around you to be their best. The standard in walking the walk." Cooper Kupp continues, "There is no doubt in my mind that the incredible impact he has had on the transformation of the LA Rams for the better. Success is found in the mud. And the only way to affect positive change is by getting your hands dirty. I've appreciated his respect for this and his willingness to get his hands in the dirt so he could leave his fingerprints on the organization. The culture that we live by, the attitude we take to the field, the mentality in which we prepare, all molded and shaped thanks to Bobby Trees. Thank you for everything, Woody." Okay. Well written. Cooper Kupp may have a future in media after that. That's a very thoughtful and very impactful statement. I think there's a couple of things going on here. He's right. This is not who runs the best route. This is not who runs the fastest 40 or who has the fewest drops or who gets the most touchdowns. Those things are important, obviously. But when everybody is talking about when you leave, when you retire, when you get traded to another team, and we're going to miss him in the locker room. We're going to miss his leadership. That's not nothing. It's not nothing. And the fact that everybody's singing from the same book is incredibly important. Now, the very good news is, and when I read that yesterday, it was kind of a double whammy. It was one of those, man, they're really going to miss this guy. And then combine it with Andrew Whitworth, it becomes even doubly impactful. But when you see something like this come from Cooper Kupp, you start to think, okay, maybe they've got the guy in the room already. Maybe they've got a guy that can step into that void. Now, Robert Woods and Andrew Whitworth, I think, led a little differently. Robert Woods, both incredibly effective, but Robert Woods, I think, is more of a, this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to go out there and do it every day. I'm going to take some wicked shots because this is the way that it has to be done. I'm going to walk the walk, right? I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm not going to say you have to do this and then go do something else. He's going to say, this is the way we play the game. And all of a sudden, everybody else has to do it too because one of the best players on the team is doing it. It's kind of how he goes about doing it. And I'm sure there are conversations between him and Woods and other guys at the position and on the offense. Whitworth is more vocal, I think. And he certainly was walking the walk as well. But he's somebody that's comfortable speaking up in the room, speaking to the head coach, talking to anybody. He's Andrew Whitworth, right? Who's not going to listen? Cooper Kupp is certainly going to fall into that second category, I think. I've talked to him. I've seen him interviewed countless times. I've heard everything that he's talked after games, and he's a pretty quiet guy. We could go back to the championship celebration at the Coliseum when he got up there. You could almost feel like he was itching to get out of there to get back to work. Like, I got routes to run. I got weights to lift. I've got film study that I need to get to. I need to figure out a new way to do this, that, or the other thing. It was almost like, I can't wait to get back to work. This is great, but he's one of those guys that believes in the process, right? That if you trust the process of your preparation, your attention to detail, the results will take care of themselves. And quite frankly, if they don't work out, it's because something weird happened, not that I wasn't ready to do it. I can respect it. I can respect it a great deal. But what's interesting is, by being that guy, it's going to be more of an Aaron Donald sort of leadership. Aaron Donald's leadership is by example and you better or else, right? I don't know if Cooper Kupp has that second part. But if Cooper Kupp, who was the best player at his position in the league, I believe that to be true. You're going to have DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, new Dolphins player, Tyreek Hill, whoever you want. Fine. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. If the best guy is singing from that book that Robert Woods was just singing from, if he's the guy that's putting his hands in the dirt, that's walking the walk, by the way, have you ever seen anything that believes he's not? Of course he is. Then maybe that leadership drain, maybe that absence of Robert Woods can be mitigated to some point, that it isn't a big problem going forward. I think that he's, Cooper Kupp's going into that part of his career where he's a made guy. There's nothing left. There's no, well, I haven't done this. I haven't been around here. Coming into the league from a small school, not a first round draft pick. It's one of the, okay, show me. Okay, good season. Okay, show me again. All right, but let's see what if you're the number one guy? Can you do this? And he's a Super Bowl MVP. He is a Triple Crown winner. And if anybody that watches football doesn't have him in their top 2 or 3 guys at that position, don't listen to him, right? There's nothing left to prove. So when he goes and does it, when he does the things that need to get done, and he says to somebody, hey, we like to get our hands dirty around here. Why aren't you running that route over the middle? Why did you, alligator arm that route? Why, whatever it might be, guys are going to listen. They're going to listen to Robert Woods, and they're definitely going to listen to Cooper Kupp. I am so thrilled that came out, because if he's willing to put that out public, and I know it's to Robert Woods, but if you post it publicly, you're sending it to not just him, you're sending it to the world. You're sending it to Rams fans. You're sending it to Rams teammates. You're sending it to everybody in that locker room that's saying, hey, look, he taught me how to do this, and I'm ready to do this now too. And you better get on board, because this is how we do things here. They'll be eternally grateful to Woods and Whitworth and these guys for setting the standard the way that they did. But you need to continue to remind people that this is how we do it. Now that they're gone, it's incumbent on the next group of guys to do it. Cooper Kupp's right at the top of that list. Made me feel very, very good about what they got coming up. Okay. 7 starters. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4 for like LeBron, right? Not 1, not 2, not 3. 7 starters for the Rams are down the road. Who's the easiest to replace? Who's the most difficult? That is coming up next. But first, let me tell you about Built Bar. Let me just put it to this way. I had bit of a taco guy situation going on a couple of days ago, where maybe I overdid it a little bit with the taco guy. Now I got to get back on track. Now I got to make some better choices with my food. And there is not a better choice than Built Bar, right? Built Bar is that thing that you can eat that tastes really good, but you're making an incredibly good choice. You got to check them out. You can have me tell you over and over and over again about how good they are. The mint brownie, the coconut almond, those are the ones that I like. But just go taste them for yourself, right? And they're good for you. Think about all the other terrible things that you might eat throughout the day. Wouldn't you like to know that you're putting something in your body that's really, really good for you? 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. These are the good things, right? Even if those don't mean anything to you, trust me when I tell you, these are the good numbers that you want compared to the numbers on the back of those snacks that you're eating right now. Built Bar is the way to go, and they're going to taste great. You're going to absolutely love them. Here's how you do it. Here's how you get back on track after you have a bad day or two, or maybe, a couple more than that, like your guy here did. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off of your order. Use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every day. Make sure you're following Locked On NFL as well. Locked On Experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It too is free and available wherever you get your podcast. And who knows, maybe you might see me on there every once in a while. I've done a few of those. Great show. Look forward to watching it every single day. Okay, let's get into what the Rams have going on right now. And obviously, the Rams have a lot of places where they need to replace players. Allen Robinson, obviously, very, very exciting player to add. That you got Matthew Stafford, the deal done there, very, very exciting. Joe Noteboom gets done. Brian Allen gets done. These are players that are part of the Rams culture who have had a great deal of success here, and you're very excited to have them back. That's good news. Fact of the matter is, the Rams have had a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps for them leave. I mean, let's just go through it, right? There are 7 starters, and I want to start with the guy that I think, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I think this is the easiest thing to find something similar to what you had before. I think Johnny Hekker is number 7th on that list. And maybe he's not a starter in the traditional sense, but Johnny Hekker, like we've talked about here before, an important football player for this team, a guy that was as good as anybody in the league for a period of time. Maybe he's not that guy anymore, and I do think that getting close to that is probably good enough, right? You'd like to have the best at every position. The fact of the matter is you just can't afford it. He had to go, and I think that's where the Rams are. We saw Bojorquez last year compete with Johnny Hekker in the preseason. We saw him kick nearly as well. I think they're going to be okay there. So he's at the back of the line. As a special teamer, I think that makes the most sense. But let's talk about some of these other guys that are going to be gone along the way. It's not just random dudes, right? These are starting players. Let's just list them out, and then we can go through who matters the most and perhaps who might be a little bit easily more replaced. You've got Von Miller, Andrew Whitworth, Austin Corbett, Darius Williams, Robert Woods. Okay? It's a lot of guys along the way. So the most difficult guy to replace on that list it's got to be Von Miller, right? It has to be Von Miller because not only is he a Hall of Fame caliber player, but he's still playing at a very high level. And that's something that was vitally important to doing what you did. As much as we talk about Matthew Stafford doing what he did and Cooper Kupp playing the way that they did, and they were brilliant, right? Just absolutely brilliant. The reason the Rams probably won the NFC Championship game in large part, and the reason that they were able to go through about 2.5 quarters of having absolutely no offense in the Super Bowl is because Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Leonard Floyd were crushing guys. They were in the backfield constantly. That pass rush that they had was relentless. And now all of a sudden you're taking one of those 3 guys off. Aaron Donald helps a great deal. But losing a player like Von Miller, who's a Hall of Fame player, who is still playing at a very high level, who played a very important leadership position on this team, despite only being there for a short period of time, I think he's at the top of the list of guys that you're going to miss. Let's go to the other end of this real quick. Robert Woods, we just talked about him and how important he is from a leadership standpoint. And I think that's very difficult to replace. I like what Cooper Kupp is doing by kind of stepping into that void right here. Allen Robinson's a really good football player. This is why you need to subscribe to Locked On Rams every single day. This is why you need to make sure that you click that button at the top. Why you need to click the button on Locked On Rams on YouTube as well, so you get this every day. Look at the quarterbacks that Allen Robinson has played with. I'm just telling you, Blake Bortles is the best one. That's all you need to know. Blake Bortles is the best guy. That's all you need to know. So I think from a football perspective, Allen Robinson and Robert Woods, I think you're going to feel pretty good about that. The other ones are where it gets a little bit more interesting. Darius Williams, I don't think is going to be as difficult to replace as maybe some other people do. The Rams have some guys, Robert Rochelle, Dante Dion, David Long. One of those guys will be good enough. The Rams are going to have to take some chances at these different places. You have a handful of guys that you have options there. You have draft picks, maybe nothing high. You're not going to find a Jalen Ramsey where they're picking, but maybe you can find somebody. And I think that's incredibly important that they do, that they can see, that they look in that direction. But you have enough guys here that I feel like they can survive Darius Williams going to a new team. Now we're getting to the next most important guy. It's Whitworth, right? It's not just the football thing like we've talked about with Robert Woods. It's everything that comes along with the football thing. It's the leadership. And oh, by the way, let's talk about how good of a left. He's still one of the best in the business. He is still one of those guys that, look, he might miss a block occasionally. He might get a holding penalty occasionally. He may give up a sack here and there. But you never need to worry about him not knowing what's going on. You never need to worry about him making a mental error. He's going to be plugged in all the time. There's nothing that an opposing defensive lineman is going to show him that he hasn't seen before. Right? He might beat him to the spot once in a while, but he's not going to trick him. And that's incredibly important when you're talking about protecting Matthew Stafford's blind side. Now, Joe Noteboom, he's going to have the first shot to fill that position, and I would be shocked if he didn't hold on to it. But this is a guy, even though he's been in the league for a while, hasn't played a ton of snaps at left tackle. He's played a few, for sure. He's played a few games. He's been in the league several seasons. But it's different than having a guy that's there every single snap of every single game for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 16 years in the terms, or when we're speaking about Andrew Whitworth. The learning curve for Noteboom it'll be there. I don't know how steep it's going to be, but it's going to be there. And again, you just cannot discount the leadership that a guy that Andrew Whitworth brings along the way. And then Austin Corbett is probably near towards the back of the end as well. Good player, did a good job coming in for the Rams. That was a home run deal for the Rams. They got a starter. They got a Super Bowl championship out of it. But if Carolina wants to do something like that, I get it. Rams, we'll try to make it work. They got a lot of guys to do, some more important than others when it comes to replacing him. But Whitworth and Miller are right near the top of the list. And at the back end, it's probably Darius Williams and Robert Woods from a football perspective. Allen Robinson is that good of a player. Okay, coming up next, the USFL is relaunching. They got some goofy rules that they're going to bring as far as conversions and overtime goes. And there's a couple that I wouldn't hate to see come to the NFL because I think they would help the Rams quite a bit. It's coming up next. But first, very excited to welcome a new partner to Locked On Network. The Locked On Rams podcast is Athletic Greens. I'm sure look, you probably listen to some other podcasts as well. You've probably heard some of these ads along the way. I started taking it myself. It's a game changer. Let me just tell you how much better you feel, how easy it is to use Athletic Greens. It really is something that I would have been waiting for my entire life. Why has this taken so long to find something like this? It is one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, right? You put it in your water, you're ready to go, and you get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens, all of these things. Now, what this means is your gut's going to feel pretty good. Look, we all have moments where that's not working the way that it's supposed to. Athletic Greens, complete game changer on that. Gives you that unbelievable start to your day, right? This is how I do it. I get up, get showered up, get ready to go, get my Athletic Greens, start drinking it. You feel great. You have energy all day long. You're just ready to go. Your stomach feels good. You've got this little bounce in your step, and it happens really, really quickly. And it's so easy to do it along the way. You got to check it out for yourself. Athletic Greens. I'm going to tell you how to get it in just 1 second. And here's the thing. I know you think that stuff can be kind of expensive, right? How about this? How much a day are you spending on coffee? How much time and money are you doing going, I'm just going to grab a cup of coffee and I'm going to do this? Athletic Greens, it's less than $3 a day. It's cheaper than getting all of the other supplements yourself, and it is unbelievably easy. Think about it like you're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. That's what it's like at Athletic Greens. You got to go try it for yourself. It has over 7,000 five-star reviews. It's recommended by professional athletes. I'm not a professional athlete. I'm just a regular guy, but it makes you feel so good along the way. And they're going to make it really easy for you. They're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Let me give it to you again. That's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. And to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance, you're going to feel great. Trust me. Okay, so the USFL is getting ready to relaunch here in a bit. And if you are of a certain age, you probably remember the USFL, right? It was kind of awesome if we're being honest about it. Like, I'm an NFL fan and I've rooted for the Rams for a long time, but little backstory here very quickly. Born in Los Angeles, but for about 6 years, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona as a kid. And this was the only professional sports team in town at the time were the Phoenix Suns. And everybody's very excited about the Suns. The Arizona Wranglers were one of the USFL teams that kind of kicked this thing off, and it was awesome. It was professional football. It was exciting. And oh, by the way, back in the day, this is in the 80s, and great players. Steve Young was in the USFL, Herschel Walker and Reggie White and Jim Kelly. I mean, just an unbelievable roster. Doug Flutie, just great players. So the league was really exciting. Now the reboot is coming back, and we'll see. They're not going to get the good players the way that the original USFL did, but they have some interesting rule things going on right here. And as I was reading them, I'm thinking, this would be a pretty good deal for the Rams. And here's what I mean. So there are going to be 3 ways you can get a PAT in the new USFL. The traditional way, you kick it. The other traditional way, you have a 2-point conversion from the 2-yard line. See what happens. You get 2. And then all of a sudden, you get the next level, which is if you want to try a 3-point point after touchdown from the 10-yard line, give it a rip. Think about it, right? It's 3 points. It's from the 10-yard. It's probably not going to work a ton, but it'll work a little bit. And you know that the math guys are already kind of spinning on this, like how often do you do it? Do you only do it when you're down 9? You have no other choice. You're not going to have enough time to get the ball back. All of these things. It's kind of interesting. How many times have we seen the Rams convert on 3rd and long? Okay, 4th and long. They hit on it at an average that I think is probably a little bit better than the league. I mean, you got Cooper Kupp, you've got potentially Odell Beckham, you've got Allen Robinson, you've got a tight end in Tyler Higbee who's pretty effective. You've got some running backs who are pretty good out of the back. You got a lot of options. And all of a sudden, instead of being down 9 and saying, okay, we got to score a touchdown, we got to get the ball back, we got to get an onside kick, all these things, you can take a shot. Depending on the score, maybe you take a shot. If you're down 9, you don't get it, you're down 6, and now I can still get the ball back and still tie the game. There's a whole lot of options there. And look, if you're a grinded out sort of team, probably not for you. The Rams are not a grinded out sort of team. If you're the Tennessee Titans, for instance, and you've got Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback, you're probably not looking to run Derrick Henry in from the 10-yard line. The Rams, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that wouldn't be an option. That I'm not saying you do it 10, 12 times a game or whatever, or even 10, 12 times a season, but having that in your back pocket, I think would be really interesting. Here's the other thing that the USFL is throwing in there that I don't hate at all. You might be saying, why do we need to do this? There's no shortage of excitement in the NFL. Perhaps, but what's wrong with more excitement, I guess, is the way that I'm looking at it. Here's the other one. How often does an onside kick work when the defense, the return team, knows it's coming? Virtually never anymore, right? Now that you can't get that running start, it went from a play that would work, I don't know, what was it, 10, 12% of the time to it almost never does. The only time that it works is when the other team doesn't see it coming. The Lions dropped one on the Rams earlier last season, and it was because no one thought Detroit was going to try to do that. Okay, so they got it. Fine. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is I score a touchdown with 45 seconds left in the game. I need to score 2 touchdowns to get back in this game. I got 1. I did the hard part. Now I need to get the ball back, knowing that an onside kick is coming. You're not getting the game's over. You can't do it. The USFL has a rule that says if you want to try, you can have the ball 4th and 12 from your own 33-yard line. Okay? You get it? First down. Let's keep it moving. Wherever you move the ball to, that's where you get to keep going. If you don't, then the defense gets the ball on the field wherever they stop you. It might be the 33 or somewhere short of the 45 if you didn't get your 12 yards. Why not? Right? I mean, the idea of rolling the ball on the ground, hoping it takes a weird bounce, bounces off somebody's hands, goes through somebody's legs, it's not going to happen very often. But converting on 4th and 12? They got to defend basically, what would that be? Roughly 70 yards of field? Chance. And what's more exciting? Okay, we're going to put Cooper Kupp over here. We're going to line up Taylor Higbee here. We're going to empty the backfield. We're going to put look, not going to happen a ton. They're going to send the house, all of the things to stop 4th and long plays you're going to see. But damn if they're not exciting. You mean to tell me you'd rather watch guys line up and roll the ball along the ground than see that? Brings in a whole new element. I love it. I would love to see that. You still have kickers. You're still going to kick off regularly a bunch of times during the game. You're still going to need a kicker like Matt Gay who can kick you a 50-yard field goal when you're down 2 and there's 4 seconds left in the game, the way that he did in Tampa in the playoffs. Kickers are still a part of this. But we're going to play some football. We're not just going to hope that the ball bounces weird. We're not going to hope that somebody makes a mistake and has it go off the end of their hands. So let's run a football play. 4th and 12, the odds aren't great, but at least it's exciting, and at least you can kind of follow along with what's doing. Good job, USFL. I don't know how aggressively the NFL is going to steal from the United States Football League, but a couple of their PAT rules and certainly the onside kick alterations where it goes to a passing, I would assume a passing play more often than not. Bring it on. Add a little more excitement. You know what? Let's try some stuff, right? Try it. Doesn't work. Throw it away. Come back the next year and roll the ball along the ground all over again. Why not? All right. Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and NFL quarterback Eric Crocker, they bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It too is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Travis Rogers. Whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.